Hi folks, so welcome back. I did a video, my last video is still worth looking at and reviewing because the purpose of this video is to look at where the sun is at and really to wish you all a happy new year, because when the sun enters the sign of Aries, whatever the equinox is for you based on whether you're in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, and therefore the spring equinox or the autumn equinox respectively, it is astrologically when the sun enters Aries, which it did on the 20th of March, 3 days ago, it is the start of a new year. In the northern hemisphere, it is the spring equinox and a feeling of spring coming in. And certainly depending on where you live in, I hear, everyone, talk about spring being on its way. I've never lived in the southern hemisphere, so I really don't have any sense or feeling of what it feels like around this time, but it is the start of the astrological new year. And I don't think I'm wrong in saying that if there is more spring in your step, whether it is the spring equinox or the autumn equinox for you, I would take advantage of it. The reason why I said that my last video is still very much relevant, and as I do future videos, this point will become emphasized more and more, is that we're still, even though the sun has moved into Aries and it is technically, in common parlance, Aries season, we're still very much under the influence of the Pisces new moon till at least April the 11th, when we had the new moon in Aries. And so, and with Mercury in Pisces, there's still plenty to, what am I trying to say? New energy, planetary entry into Aries, this year especially. Planetary entry into Aries signifies greater forward movement and a need to move towards a more future orientation, forward orientation, the pursuit of goals. Some of this just has to do with the fact that that is what the sign of Aries symbolizes for all of us. So collectively, with the sun coming into Aries, and wherever Aries sits in your chart, wherever the sun goes, it lights up subconsciously that part of the chart. Okay, and by lights it up, a lot of people give a lot more yang influence to the sun, a lot more conscious energy to the sun. And I am very clear that I find that the sun operates a lot more subconsciously. Insofar as it doesn't sit for our personality, but our soul, insofar as it is where the light is shining and where the light is shining from, and the light of truth. Wherever Aries sits in your chart, wherever the sun goes, it illuminates it, and subconsciously you are processing and taking stock of that house and that part of the chart. Irrespective, the new year has started, all the planets are in forward motion. The month of April especially, but also some of May, we're going to continue to see this forward motion. So if some part of you is split between a past orientation and a future orientation, the planetary movement into Aries progressively leading up to the new moon in Aries on April the 11th, which takes us to May the 11th, if you're feeling the call and the pull for, you're dealing with past issues, but let's also build towards a future that is more aligned with our goals, that impulse and that feeling and that energy is correct astrologically. And I would split your time between dealing with past stuff and future stuff. The past stuff, as I mentioned in my last video, which is why it's important, because we are split right now still, and quite powerfully. And this has been the energy for some time, but the future orientation is very, very strong, increasingly, demanding action, demanding us to be moved forward. And the past energies that we're dealing with somehow harken back to 2015, 2016. And up for clarification, sorting the wheat from the chaff, dealing with certain issues, nipping certain things in the bud, getting clear on what's really going on, but that clarity is not there because Mercury's in Pisces and the entire thinking communication process is foggy. Whatever's going on with Pisces will continue to be developed in future videos, and my last video, for which I will put a link in here. This is about the sun in Aries, the new year beginning. And we've had a certain amount of future orientation in our charts since December of 2020. And I would split your time 50-50 towards a more future orientation that is aligned with your goals and wrapping up the past. Now, Venus entered Aries on March the 21st. I wrote down these dates right here, so I'm not like rolling my eyes trying to remember them. And I will talk about the Sun-Venus conjunction on March the 25th, which financial and relationship issues somehow being burned off as we get to the 25th and renewed. That is a very complex. Burned off and renewed makes it sound a lot more optimistic and positive than it might be. It is and it isn't, but that will be developed in a future video. But we've got the Sun on the 20th, Venus, the planet of relationships and luck and money and luxuries, relationships and money, also in Aries as of the 21st, the Sun and Venus conjunct on the 25th. Mercury enters Aries on the 4th, and on the 11th we have the new moon in Aries. At the end of this week, so Sun March 20th, Venus March 21st, Mercury 4th of April, new moon April the 11th. That new moon on April the 11th and the energy till the middle of May is some of the most beautiful energy, unfettered energy. The full moon that we're leading up to at the end of this week, and this full moon requires that the Sun is going to be in Aries and the moon is going to be in Libra. And at the time of the full moon, the Sun is going to be conjunct Venus and Chiron. So the Sun, Venus, and Chiron are going to oppose a full moon. And, you know, like our last lunation, the new moon in Pisces, there's something very stabilizing and there's a certain amount of unrest at the same time. Again, part of it is the future orientation versus the past orientation. Part of it is that dealing with these 2015, 2016 energies that are once again here, trying to be put to rest. This full moon at the end of this week, again, has some extraordinarily stabilizing influences and a kind of a future orientation. And yet, no full moon opposite Venus Chiron can be considered pain-free. So, Happy New Year. Try to split your time towards a future orientation that is much cleaner and clearer towards your goals and where you feel you need to go in a clean, clear, unfettered, brightly lit way, while acknowledging that there's still a lot of energy and buildup and pain and clarification needed when it comes to past issues, especially highlighted by where the sign of Pisces sits in your chart and crises that have been festering since 2015, 2016. Be prepared that some of this is going to continue to develop this week as you head towards the full moon on Saturday, Friday, Saturday, depending on where you are. Promises to again be stabilizing and volatile, or at least painful in some respects. But know that as you get towards April the 11th, that April the 11th new moon in Aries is really quite gorgeous. So anyway, every video doesn't have to be a long one. This is a way of wishing you a Happy New Year, encouraging you to keep a forward orientation. I'll talk about the Pisces energy in the next couple of videos as well, of course. But onward. Let's move towards building a future that is truly aligned with your goals while you continue to wrap up over the next 3 weeks, but especially this coming week, certain items related to murkiness and crises associated with 2015, 2016. Okay, I'll leave it at that. This is one in a series of videos, so it's sort of a building block based on where we are at currently. If you found this video useful, feel free to like it, share it, comment on it, subscribe to my YouTube channel, click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button so you're notified whenever I do new videos. There are more videos that will be coming out this week. And my contact information is going to be in the description area below, so you can always inquire about rates for readings, or I can make an easy-to-read version of your chart that'll tell you which sign is in which house and what those houses stand for. Do not send me your personal information until you inquire about rates and know you want to move forward. Okay? I will leave it at that. Happy New Year, you guys. If you're feeling that New Year energy somewhere, and if you're feeling a little bit more spring or fall in your step or whatever, if you're feeling a little bit more energy and feeling like you're somehow split in half between a clean, unfettered, true, authentic future orientation, and dealing with this kind, you know, my expression says it all, a certain amount of murkiness that goes back to 2015, 16, you're not crazy. You're right. Deal with both. And especially this week, Deal with it both 50-50, but don't shy away from cleaning up what needs to be cleaned up as well. It will happen naturally. It will happen. This full moon is a complex one, and more to follow on that as the week progresses. Okay.